Welcome to RcHelpDotCom. I'm Tony, and today we're finally going to get to building the T-Rex 450 Pro version 2. Now, this is a super combo, so it did come with all the servos, and if you watched in the last video where I unboxed it and showed you everything that was inside, you already know what it comes with. Now, also in the last video, I told you guys that I was going to go by the book on building this. Basically, we're going to go page by page, and we're going to build it per the instruction manual. There are some inaccuracies in the manual, but they're not anything big, and they should be stuff that's small enough that anybody can overcome. The first thing that you want to do is you want to read completely through the entire instruction manual. Just read through it, find out what you need and what you have to have in order to put this helicopter together. It does come with some tools, and it does come with 2 different thread locks. From what I heard, some of them come with grease for like up here in the head. Mine did not come with any grease, so this is what we're going to use. This is what I use in my cars, so hey, if it's good enough for my cars, it's good enough for my helicopter. I'm going to be using it on the thrust bearings and on the dampers inside the head. Not that big of a deal. You guys, if you have spray silicone, like white silicone, you can use that. And then we're going to need a little bit of oil to put in the tail boom to slide the bearing holder through there. So, like I say, first thing you need to do is you need to read through the entire manual before you get started. Here gives you some warnings, crap like that. Here just kind of gives you the layout. These are the tools that you're going to need. If you can get tools like these, it's much easier than using these right here. Now, whenever you read through the book, it's going to tell you apply a little amount of T43 thread lock when fixing a metal part. Basically anything metal into metal, you're going to put thread lock on. Down here, for original manufacturing, it's supposed to be manufacturing package, if the product is already assembled by factory, please check again. Now, I can tell you from going through and looking at all these different parts, they are put together. They are not thread locked, which I really like. They're not even tightened down. They're just put in there. And then down here, please check again if screws are firmly secured and applied with some glue. Now, the glue that they are talking about is thread lock. Do not put CA on a metal joint. Do not put CA on the bearing except on the torque tube. We will put CA on the torque tube. So these are just some of the inaccuracies that they have. It's nothing near as bad as some of the Chinese stuff that I've seen. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, I know I damn sure have, there are no instruction books with any of them other helicopters. So like I say, today we're going to go through page by page on getting this thing put together. And the first thing they want you to put together is the head, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now up here on top, it's going to say 450 Henry 7. Now, unfortunately, I've got a 450 Henry, but no Henry 7. So, whatever. Take all the stuff out. You're going to need the main shaft. You're going to need the swash. We're not going to need this piece yet. We will later. Set that aside. And then you get your head unit. Like I said, when I said these things are put in but not tightened, I mean it. We're going to have to go through and check every single screw on this, including these in here and the swash driver, as well as these. You're going to want to pull all these out, apply a little bit of thread lock, and then put them back in. Right here on the instruction manual, it shows 1 millimeter of thread lock on the very tip, and then wipe it with your finger so that it doesn't spread everywhere. Don't do like the Chinese do and freaking gunk this stuff on them threads, and then it ends up getting inside your bearings and starts locking things up. No. Do it like this. So the first thing we got to do is we get to tear this thing apart. Now, just like they're showing here, like I say, we're going to go in order. They're wanting us to put all the thrust bearings and then these 2 bearings here with the spacer and get this piece thread locked in. That's exactly what we're going to do. Pull out both of these, since obviously we know where they go. Now, cut your bag open, get your tools out. Now in here, you've got your 1.3, you've got 2 1.5s, and I believe this is a 2.5. This is going to be for like your head bolt, the main blade bolts. We're going to need both of these 1.5s. Take out these main blade bolts, They are not anywhere near tight. Then take your Allen wrenches and put one in each side of this head. Remember that feathering shaft in there will spin, so it's got to have a backer on it. And then just unscrew. And then find out which one is unscrewing. That way you can be pulling out on this as you're unscrewing it. Once you get it unscrewed, just set that one aside. And now we can take this Allen wrench out, grab a hold of this head, and push here. And that entire thing should slide out. Do not lose that little guy. Take that shim off the other side, and then we're going to set these shims aside. Now we can slide the entire feathering shaft out. The thrust bearing will already be on there. We don't need to really worry about that. So what we're going to do, grab our 1.5, put it in there, and then try to unscrew it. If you can't, we're going to need to get a rag and a pair of pliers, clamp down on this, and take this screw out. Alright, I got a pair of pliers, and I just got some regular paper towel. We're going to wrap this in the paper towel, and then we're just going to clamp down on it to where we can break that screw loose. Now we'll go ahead and back this screw out. Once it's out, make sure you don't leave anything on the feathering shaft. And there is your thrust bearing. Now on your thrust bearings, unlike the Chinese, this one's going to be marked and it's going to say in. This means it's going to face to the inside towards the main block. Another way you can check these is take the outer thrust bearing and then check it. You can see that one doesn't have very much wobble at all, and it says out on the thrust bearing. And then this one here, it's got substantially more wobble to it, and plus it says in. Now we know how those go. We need to take the thrust bearings out of this side. Only part of those come out. Once you got those out, just put your feathering shaft in here and check those bearings. Make sure you don't feel any grit at all. And these are immaculately clean. Now, I've inspected all of these pieces, and every one of them are real nice and clean. Take that paper towel that we had before, we're going to get it ready, because now we get to play with some grease. What I like to do, I'll just dab my finger in a little bit of grease, and the side that has the cup, just kind of dab it in there a little bit. Now the amount that I actually had on my finger is way too much, but then you can take it and just roll it around in your finger, and then look, you want to fill that entire gap with grease. Once it's decent, just lay it down there on the towel, and we'll do our second one. If only one of your little shims come out, find out which one it come out of, and then go ahead and drop this shim down on the one without it. Then take an Allen wrench or something to make sure it's laid in there flat. Take the end, put it in there, make sure the grooves are facing out. Take one of your thrust bearings, put it in, make sure the cupping is facing towards the inside, and then take your outside one and stick it on top of that. Now take one of your screws, put your washer on it, and then screw it in. I know we haven't put thread lock on that yet. We're getting to it. Now take this and slide the entire thing down into the head. Now we can take that screw back out. With that screw out, we need to grab our bag that has our thread lock in it and get the thread lock out. Now when you're using this, you've got two different kinds. You've got R48 and you've got T43. Everything is labeled. T43, it'll tell you when to use the R48. Everything's labeled. This is great. Take the top off, and as you can see, I've got a little bubble already. We just want a little bit right on the end, and we're just going to kind of let that bubble over. It's making a mess. Put it in there and get it as close to lockdown as you can. Obviously we're not going to be able to tighten it down because we can't grab a hold of that feathering shaft. Once that's done, take you a little bit of oil and put a little oil on this shaft. Not thread lock like I just did. Once you get all your old oil wiped off of the feathering shaft, don't forget to grab your little shim over here and put your shim on first. Then, now I'm using Team Trinity bearing oil. You can use any oil you want. If you want to use silicone, whatever, you can use it. Take a little bit of that and just put a little bit on that feathering shaft. Kind of smear it around. That's going to help lube it whenever we put it through the dampers. Speaking of dampers, you want to make sure that they're in there and they're seated and not poking out the sides. Even this top piece is not secured. Take your Allen driver again, put it back in that bolt, And then we're going to go ahead and just slide that sucker right through. Now, unlike the clones, these dampers are a lot more stiff. Much better. Alright, now that we got that, we're going to go ahead and just leave our Allen wrench in. Now, we're going to build the other side, but we're going to do it just a little bit differently. This time, you always want to put your washer on your screw. Now, we need to get the outside. Put that down on the screw. Take your thrust bearing, put it down on there, wipe off the grease. Make sure the cup is facing up whenever you're doing it like this. Then put the other side on there. Now we have a handle to take all of this, make sure your shim is up inside there, and shove every bit of it all the way up in there. Don't forget, put your shim on it. Now while holding this other Allen wrench, slide this together and then tighten it down until you just feel this one stop. What that's going to do is it's going to assure you that all those thrust bearings are down in there where you want them. Now, take that screw right back out. Now that we got the screw out, if yours did like mine did, you've got a nice puddle of thread lock on the side. Dip just the very end of it in there, run it on your finger, wiping most of it off, and put the screw back in. Now the thread lock's going to do most of your work here, but you want to grab both these Allen wrenches and give it a good snugging down. Take them both out and then check and make sure these are nice and smooth. And let me tell you, that is some smooth stuff. This one's a little bit tighter than this one is, but I'm going to tell you that it's not something to really worry about. That is smooth. Alright, let's put the link ends on again. Just dab them in the thread lock, wipe it off, screw them in, and tighten them down. Again, thread lock's going to help you here. You don't have to go gorilla and strip these Allen wrenches out. Same thing for the other side. Now that that's done, these screws here are not tight. We do want to put some thread lock on them and go ahead and tighten them down. Dab just a little bit on the end, stick your Allen wrench in it, wipe off the excess, and then screw it right back in. Simple as that. You don't have to worry about these bearings. Tighten it down and make sure that it still moves freely. And even though this one's not quite dropping the way I think it should, it's still, I'm telling you, I tighten that down pretty good and it's still doing that. Find me a clone that'll do that. Same thing for the other side. Again, it's dropping under its own weight. Everything is golden. Instead of putting thread lock on this, we're not going to do that yet. We still have to set the pitch of these blades. So just put this in there, then just kind of give it a light torquing down. There's not a lot of threads in here. You don't want to torque these things down real hard. Getting a crash, you're more than likely going to lose this piece anyway. Alright, everything's nice and smooth. The head is assembled. That pretty much took care of this page here. Now over here, as you can see, we've got the radius arms, which we've already done this part. We got our swash, and then we got our links. Our links are going to be located in another bag. Now the swash, man, I'm telling you, it just doesn't hardly get any better than this. And I'm pretty sure that none of these have thread lock on them. Oh, these feel pretty tight. But take every one of these balls out, put a little drop of thread lock on them, and then put them back in. Swash is done. Now we need to find these links. Now all your links for this are going to be located in 450 Henry Zebra 11 package. You need to open this little bad boy up. Now, this is the greatest thing about a fly barless. There's not many links to it, and I really like it. What you're going to have is you're going to have 3 of these little guys here. Those are going to be from your swash down to your servos. And then you're going to have these 2 that are going to go up to your head. Now, when we assemble these, you're going to need a little special tool. If you do not have a digital pair of calipers, go to your local discount tool store and pick up one. This one right here cost me 15 bucks and it's been invaluable. Do it. This is well worth what I paid for it. We're going to need this to set these links up. The manual will give you not only the length inside, but also the length of the actual rod, which I don't know why, but it gives you a center to center which is approximately 44.5 millimeters for this rod here going up to the blade grips. So what you do, take this, grab it with a pair of pliers, and start screwing that end on about halfway. Grab your other one and do the same thing on the other side. And repeat. Alright, because we are only dealing with this one, we're not to the actual servos yet, this is the only one they're having us do. It's the only one we're going to do. Take your pair of digital calipers, turn them on, make sure they're on millimeter, and then set them to 44.5 millimeters. 44.49, that's close enough. Now you want to measure center to center. As you can see, we need to go just a little bit more. That one's a 44.5, same thing for this one. Alright, even though I hit my power button on this, I know it's still there because I locked it down. Those are done. Now what we need to do, as you can see, they've got the main shaft in here. Don't forget the align is on the bottom part of it where it's actually stamped into it, and then we get to put that bolt through it. For that, it's going to be in the 450 Henry Zebra 1.5 bag. You're also going to have some shims for your main shaft, just in case you have to shim it to get all the play out. We need this really long one, and we need this little bitty nut. Alright, take your main shaft out of the bag. Right here is the align that I was talking about, and then here's where it's going to sit on top. This part is always going to go through the bearings. Unfortunately, you'll never see the align. Don't ask me why. Without losing everything, take your swash, slide it down on there, take the main head assembly. Make sure when you put these on that these arms are actually across the center line like this. That way the swash driver or the radius arms will line up with the actual swash. Take your main shaft, shove it up in there, look through your little hole and make sure you can see daylight. This side, one side is flat and the other side is going to accept the nut. So what we're going to do, set the nut right in there just like that. Grab your bolt, grab your Allen wrench, thread lock, wipe it off. And then screw the bolt through the head and tighten her down. If you need to add a little bit more torque to it, you can use a short end and use a long end as your leverage. Just kind of torque it down. And then make sure you actually put it through the main shaft. So now take your swash, take your radius arms and snap them together. Man, that hurts. No pain, no gain. Ouch. Alright, make sure it moves up and down, make sure everything's nice and free, make sure everything spins. Oh, we're looking good. Take these. Now on here, I know you can't see them here, but there's a small A right down here, and then there's some little numbers up here. You want to make sure that those are facing outside of these. And also, if you look at that diagram, whenever you're looking at that right one, it's going to want to be, the right side is going to want to be closest towards you. Unfortunately, I got mine backwards, so I get to take one off. That's how it's supposed to look. Now the A, like I said, is supposed to face outside. Man, those are some of the tightest links, but yet they're not excessively tight once you get them on. This is great. Alright, we're going to have to turn that one just a little bit to get it onto the swash. You can use a pair of pliers for this. You would think it would start hurting less, but no. Alright, and there you go. Now, we've got all the links hooked up, and the head, that's it. That is all there is to assembling this head. The only thing left is to put some thread lock on that button, but like I said, we got to take this off whenever we do the blade pitch. Well guys, that's where I'm going to end this one. We got the head built. The head is unbelievably easy. I showed you how to do all the thrust bearings and how to put all the links together. Everything is pretty self-explanatory when you have instructions, but I thought I'd go through it anyway just to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on. Now, in the next video, obviously, we're going to start on the main frame. We're going to get the motor mount and all the bearing brackets in there, get the gyro set in there. I am going to put my gyro in position 1 rather than up here on position 2. The reason I want it down here is all my wires are going to be hidden inside. Everything's nice and clean, and I will not be running a receiver. I'm going to be running the 2 satellite receivers out of it, and then all my wires are going to go in here. That cuts down on half the wires, so I mean, why wouldn't you? So guys, hopefully you'll join me for that. Hope you enjoyed the head build, and there's going to be a lot more to come. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.